Hey, everybody, this is Marla Schultz with Flip the Switch. Thank you so much for joining me. We go live on governorsradio.com or facebook.com/govsradio. I am so excited for the show because I have two of my favorite people on the show. We got Jenn Plotzke, the divine, multi-hyphenate, talented actress, director, producer. She's on the festival circuit. Her films are winning all these awards. And then there's Mr. Needy over here, Ken Perlstein, who we love, who is a regular on the marvelous Mrs. MAISEL. He's a recurring character. He plays Dougie. He's been on numerous Showtime shows and HBO. But I love the fact that my two favorite people have collaborated on a pilot that is tearing up the festival. So welcome, Jenn and Ken.
Thank you so much.
You.
That was a lovely introduction.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. First of all, I'm so thrilled that you guys found the time. And you know what? The fact that we can't get together in person, this is like the next best thing, or so they say, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Thank God we've had this during this whole time, right? Ooh.
Can you
Absolutely.
imagine? Can you imagine this pandemic like in the 80s?
No way. Would have been.
I think we'd all be smoking crack.
We'd be communicating on crack and Etch-a-Sketch. Remember those?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, no, Valium and Quaaludes were really big back then. I don't know if you guys ever dabbled. I didn't dabble, but that was like some really, big popular stuff. But anyway, let's talk about how am I doing? Ken, do you want to tell us about your pilot?
Sure. It's a sort of a deep dive into the world of this guy, Eli Meyer, who's a recovering alcoholic, and just takes a look at relationships and second chances. So this guy's kind of larger than life, and he represents, many types of people, a lot of different people who are trying to come back, trying to get a relationship back with their daughter, going through divorce. So
also alcoholism, right?
Yeah, recovery. That's I mentioned the recovery. So you're dealing with life. He's dealing with life on life's terms. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes there's victories and then steps backwards. So it's exciting. It's
life.
Never a dull moment.
It's
yes,
life.
It is. It's a slice of life. So.
And I love the fact that you have collaborated with Jenn. So Jenn, you're not one of the actors, but you became a producer. So what attracted you to this project besides working with the lovely and talented Mr. Perlstein?
Tell them how it came about.
Well, working with the lovely and talented Mr. Perlstein was the first box checked. And beyond that, he sent me the script and he said, I'm looking for a producer. And I said, great, I'll give it a read. And it was still, I think, he was still sort of working on the final script, but the bones of it were there. And so I read it and I just loved the character so much. And there were already a few actors attached to it that I really wanted to work with: Anthony Robert Grasso, Amanda Brooke Lerner. So it was kind of a very easy decision for me.
Well, and also congratulations, because every time I turn on Instagram or Facebook, there's both of you. How am I doing? Awarded, this festival award, and it's this festival. So what are some of the festivals that you have won awards or major recognitions?
I'll tell you. You want to talk about it? Huh?
Go ahead.
So, recently we were just at Holly Shorts in Los Angeles and Soho International in New York. Obviously, both were virtual, but those were two of our really big festival goals. And so we're like beyond thrilled to even be selected. Soho nominated us for Best Long Form Pilot, which was really great. Prior to that, we screened, we were a selection for Manhattan Film Festival, also Studio City last year in Los Angeles when that was still in person. Ken got to attend that one.
Wow.
And there's a WRPN Global Webisode competition, which we entered and won Best Actor, Best Director, Colleen Davy-Janes. The Best Actor was for Ken, and Best Pilot. So we've just been having a really great time, and, we're just thrilled that it's getting out there and people are seeing it.
It's been a ride.
Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it's just been a ride, and I I could not have been more happy that Jen accepted, coming on board, because, it was a long process for me, and a learning process as far as what producing is, what goes into shooting something. So I went through several directors and, a lot of changes, producers, and Jen's a good friend of mine, a talented actress, a great producer. She gets shit done. I like women who get shit done. And I just said, you know what? I'm in limbo here. Can you read it? Tell me what you think. She said, you want me to come on board? I'm like, yes.
Wow.
Please.
Wow. I mean, I would love to do, work
Get that
with
story.
the two of you for sure. So let me bounce this back to Jenn. Jenn, I mean, I read your resume and I was like, oh my God, this girl, you are, the doyen of the, what do you call it? The Indie Film Festival. I mean, and I was just reading some of your credits. Dinner with Schwartzy at Best Ensemble, and it was at the French Independent, was it Spirit Awards and Cannes? I mean, one award after the other. Like, where do you find the time to do everything you do? And have a life and be married.
Honestly, I really work at all of this. I do have a lot of projects going at once. It's a lot, but it's a labor of love, and it's stuff that I work on honestly 24/7.
Wow.
And not all of the projects I'm, like for example, my Dinner with Schwartzy, I'm not a producer on that. I was an actor.
Yeah.
So that has had its own wild ride on the festival circuit, like wildly successful, and it's a great film. But our director and writer sort of handle all of that. So, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like I have different hats on for each project. So some are larger workloads than others. But yeah, it's, all day, every day thing.
No, it's incredible. And I mean, every time I turn on Instagram, there's another fabulous picture of you. It was like movie poster. You're not hearing any kind of jealousy. It's much more admiration. And I mean, this whole past year, I've been sitting here like, what the hell did I accomplish? And it's like, well, I know what Jen's accomplished. I know what Ken has accomplished. It was like another award.
Facebook can make you seem like you've accomplished so much.
Oh,
but
you have, Mr. Self-Deprecating, you have. So let me ask, I want to ask both of you, what got you into this masochistic industry, and what keeps you engaged? So Ken, you want to kick that one off?
Sure. I mean, why did I get into this to begin with? My son asked me that a few weeks ago in the car, and he said, Dad, why did you want to become an actor? And I guess for me, it started, when I was a kid and growing up the way I did in a really challenging environment. I'll just leave it at that. And I always had this fantasy that I wish I was from another family,
Oh, yeah.
Imagination. And I was adept at mimicking things, mimicking sounds, mimicking people. And so all that kind of played a role in my imagination, and then creativity, other forms of creativity at different parts of my life. I was also an athlete too, as what you call a Jew jock. The Jews who play sports but don't own the teams. But, so I was that. And I guess, I didn't have anything else to fall back on. I wasn't an academic. I was dyslexic with ADD. They throw you in a resource room. So my...
I put you on the short bus.
I did. I was on the short bus. I was the cheesemobile, the window lickers. I was one of them. I was certainly a window licker. And they just break us out to play sports.
Yes.
Yeah, right. They're like, here, lay off the rip. Let's go out and kill somebody. Okay, here. But
oh my God,
Ritalin's great. It prevented me from doing coke, because if you're on Ritalin, you don't need coke.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a whole other podcast. But I think, when I got to my final high school, and went to many different schools, a lot of different schools. I keep saying everything's a different story, but I went to a lot of different schools. My last school was in Bath, Maine. at a school called Hyde, and was there for 2 years. And it was mandatory. Performing arts was mandatory. 3 sports was mandatory, which wasn't
Wow.
performing arts for me. Even though I loved performing in front of little groups of people, and I was great at that. I would make people laugh, I would make jokes. I would impersonate every single teacher. I would impersonate a couple of students. Their looks changed when I got to them, you know, they're like, wait a minute. But they put me in performing arts. They put me in the school musical, and I didn't want to do it because it involved singing. You know, I wasn't confident. I'm like, I don't want to sing. They're like, yeah, you're going to be a 50s Elvis guy, and you're going to go out and sing the song, Do You Want to Dance? And I was like, no, you're not. They're like, yes, you will, unless you want to chip ice. So that's what I did.
Hilarious.
And it was great. Something happened. Something happened, you know.
You
When I was
mean
out there.
something flipped the switch?
It really,
Aha!
it flipped flipped the switch. Yeah, it just, there was something about it. There was something about it. And I just lost myself. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to look like an ass, then, you know what, I'm going to throw everything I can into it. And it hit me because we were walking through town one day, and some locals like stopped a car. There was a whole bunch of people, teenagers. And I'm like, oh God, this is going to be bad. And they all got out there like, yo, you were the Elvis dude, man. You were that was awesome. So I was like, wow. I didn't have anything else. So I did that in college. I was a major in theater. I walked on to play football. I was in a fraternity, but I was a theater major, and there was nothing else. And I got to New York finally. And
when did you jump into stand-up?
You know, gosh, I think the very first time was when I was in graduate school. I was getting my MFA in like 96, 99, and Billy
That's when I started.
Yeah, well, Billy Crystal was on Inside the Actor Studio. So I was going to the Actor Studio MFA program, and he was a guest, and he had gone to Marshall on a baseball scholarship. Marshall's in Huntington, West Virginia, if those people don't know. So I said, wow, you know, students get to ask questions. I said, Bill, you know, I went to, they didn't call him Bill. I said, Billy, you know, I said, Crystal. I actually said Mr. Crystal because I was shitting my pants to begin with. And I said, hey, I went to Marshall, and I know you went to Marshall too. And wow, you know, I love what you do. I also do impersonations and voices. And man, there's a lot of character work in West Virginia. And I sat down. He goes, no, wait a minute. Stand back up. I have a question. Tell me about the characters in West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
He said, what are the characters like in West Virginia?
What are the characters like in West Virginia?
So, well,
give us one.
I did the whole rendition of Jews in West Virginia. I pulled it right out of my butt.
Let's hear it.
I said, you know, I never heard Jews talk with an Appalachian dialect before. In Huntington, West Virginia. So I was like, Marucha Tanano, yeah. Like the Jews of Hazard.
Like a Jewgasm?
The Jews of Hazard.
Jews of Hazard. Oh my God, that's really, really funny.
It's the good old Jews.
So it's Jewgasm.
Yeah.
Jewgasm.
It sounded like Jewgasm. That was funny.
I ever seen some Jewgasm? Yeah.
Now, Jenn, with the name Jenn Plotzke, Jew or not a Jew?
Not a Jew.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome to our game show. Jew or not a Jew?
Jew or not a Jew? Hey, it's getting around Christmas time. But I'm sure you've been asked that before because, you know, everybody's like, what did you do? He took a Plotzke. It's a good Yiddish word.
Yes, true. Yeah, I do get asked that a lot, but
you're not.
Yeah. But I
don't know. Anyway, moving on. But Ken, I loved your story because I think there's something about stand-up and performing. Like for me, it was, you know, it being funny, saved my ass from getting, you know, my ass kicked by the tough girls, or I'd get out of trouble. And, you know, you make a teacher laugh. They're like, all right, get back in, you know, you don't need to stand in the hall. Like that always saved me. But how about you, Jenn? What made you want to be an actress and a comedic actress at that?
Well, it's been pretty much my whole life. When my dad, it was always super into adventure movies and, you know, raised us on Indiana Jones and James Bond and stuff like that. And so from a very early age, he took me to see Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark well before I should have seen it. And he didn't know that there were going to be, you know, it was like skin melting Nazis at the end of it. And so I was terrified by that, but I was also like, the whole movie up to that point was incredible. And I was just staring at this going, oh my God, this is, you know, what I want to do. And yeah, ever since then, I've just always wanted to make movies, and I've just sort of, it's always been my goal. There was never really a plan B. I started acting when I was a kid in grade school, and carried that through high school. My high school luckily had a really, really, really top-notch performing arts program.
And you're from the Midwest, right?
Yeah, in Chicago. Well, in the Chicago suburbs. And it was a lot better than most kids have access to at that age. And so I was lucky to sort of begin training there. Then I went, furthered that in college, and then came to New York.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any performer, when they listen to this, I can completely relate. I remember I wanted to get out of my family, and I would always try and morph into other families. But I remember that I wanted to be in TV so bad. I believe my mother caught me with my dad's tool, like a screwdriver, unscrewing the back of the TV, thinking I could get on TV through the back of the TV.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
You know, I think we're all blessed with a very strong imagination, you know, that is still crackling. How do you, like, what would you tell a young actor dealing with, you know, getting into the business now, which I can't even imagine, but how would you tell them to deal with, you know, the challenges with social media and dealing with rejection and all that stuff? Ken, what kind of advice would you give?
Dealing with the rejection, dealing with the whole hustle. You know what? You do have to have a thick skin. Mm-hmm. And I take it, you know, from what I've learned is that I kind of tear up the sides. After each audition, I tear up the sides, I throw them away, and I move on.
That's smart.
It's been a tradition for a few years.
And you know what? It must be working, because landing a role on the the marvelous Mrs. MAISEL, that's a huge kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, it took me a while to get into that office. And once I did, it took me 3 times of getting called back. And that's the other thing too, is, you know, you learn to what they call book the room, book the casting room, just book the room.
What does that mean?
So
I need help.
Right. So a lot of people are focused on, I got to book the role. I got to get this role. I got to get this role. Instead of, you know what? I want to impress the shit out of these people.
Right.
I just want to have fun. And that's the thing, when you go in there, you're there to have fun. You're not going up in front of a firing squad, you know, going, okay, oh my God, the camera started recording. Here I go. No, you're there to have fun. And they're there, they want you to get the part. They really want you to get this. They want you to be the one. And you just build up a relationship with them. They keep calling you back. So all these shows like Mrs. MAISEL, I kept getting called back until, you know, my agent said, they want to see you for a callback for a recurring role.
Amazing. But I think that's great. And I'm sorry for cutting you off, but when you say, you know, have like book the room, can you just give a specific answer? And then Jenn, I want you to answer that too, because you're obviously booking the room too.
Book the room. It means,
like you walk in but you're walking in, and then you have the casting director or assistant, and they've seen 100 people. Like, do you schmooze? Like, how do you temper that?
You know, you just got to feel it out. You know, how well do you know the people? I mean, there's, you know, a few people I've been in to see many, many times. So I have sort of a little rapport with them. I can joke.
Sure. The first time though, like, you know, oh, thank you so much. Like, how kiss-assy should you be or not be?
You know what? Say thank you. Don't ever say, "Oh my God, I messed up. Oh my God, I messed up." Or I
Oh,
was
really?
like this.
You're not supposed to say that.
Oh, here's the thing: when they give you
Marla!
directions, you don't have to say that. I'm sorry, I was late. They don't give a shit. Don't tell them you were late. They don't care.
Okay. Jen, what about you? How do you book the room?
Well, I agree with everything Ken just said. And I definitely never point out that you've screwed up if you have. First of all, they may not even realize it. And so you pointing it out doesn't really help your game. And if you do, you know what I mean? Like if you do, you just keep going. It's like everyone's going to screw up. They're not one of the biggest that someone told me one time that casting directors are not looking for perfection. They're looking for an artist. They're looking for someone that they can work with, that, you know what I mean? That you're not just a robot that's going to be able to recite it perfectly. Like who cares if you screw up the lines, you know?
Right.
But I think that booking the room, it's just what Ken said, like you really have to read it. And, you know, being artificial or kissing ass or whatever, I think that, you know, most people, industry or otherwise, like see
Not
right
into
through
it.
that. And and it's a turn off, you know? And I think that if you just go in and you're genuine and you're grateful, because frankly,
Yeah.
how many actors are there, right? And how only a select few are going to get called in and one person's going to book it.
Right.
And whether you book it or not, you should be damn grateful to be the one that's called in the room, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I always do it. I lead with gratitude. I build those relationships. I thank them. I follow up and I thank them. And then when I see them
How do you
again,
follow
they know
up?
me.
How do you follow? Do you send notes?
Yeah, always.
No. Interesting, because I've been people like, oh yeah, no, people don't do that anymore. It shows your age, and I was like, really? I think
Showing
it's
up at their door.
right. But I think
No.
sending a note is a big deal, right?
I think that people, you know, I don't think it takes anything to say thank you. And I think that people will never lift, you know, raise an eyebrow at someone thanking them. And I think that there just needs, you know, there's no ask in it. There's no like, hey, thanks so much for bringing me in. What did you think of my work? Don't, you know, no, it's just a thank you. Like, thanks so much. Great to see you. See you soon.
That's
Have a great
awesome.
holiday. Enjoy your weekend.
Have you been auditioning a lot virtually?
Yes. Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For TV, films, or just everything?
95% of it has been TV, a couple commercial and a couple of films.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. How about you, Ken?
I've started to pick up with auditions. I've had a producer session for Blue Bloods.
Awesome.
Here's another thing I wanted to go back to real quick in terms of booking a room. One day out of nowhere, before the pandemic, before 2020 was supposed to get started, I got an email out of nowhere from this casting director who I haven't booked with her, but I've been in that room many, many times. And just an email, and she said, "Hey, I just saw you on Mrs. MAISEL. I loved you in season 2, and I just saw season 3, and you were fantastic. I loved your work, and we will be calling you in."
Nice.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know a major casting director. So I didn't ask, but if you build the relationships,
Right.
Exactly.
you are.
All kidding aside, I've cornered the market on TSA agents and police, and I am not complaining. I always saw myself as something else besides a TSA agent. And anyway, I kid, but I've been called back several times to rooms, and
Excellent.
I've definitely, been auditioning more, which is nice. And it's really nice to feel confident instead of, I used to worry about the lines. I couldn't memorize. And you mentioned Amanda Brooke Lerner. She taught me a great technique. You read the lines like this, and you just do one letter on each of the words. And all of a sudden I was memorizing like 6 pages in no time, which was huge.
Love it.
But anyway, I want to talk about, listen, we're all funny. I know, Jen, have you ever done stand-up?
I have not. I've thought about it, but I have to say that I give major props to stand-up comedians, because I think that is probably the ballsiest thing you can do. I mean, that's like, you're just out there by yourself, and just
balls to the wall, as they say.
I mean, yeah. So, and I've seen both of you guys perform, and you're both so freaking hilarious, and I love it. And I'm so happy to be in the audience watching you and not on the stage.
Yes. Well, you know what? But the thing is, you have such a great, you hang well with the comedic mind, and you obviously have awesome comedic chops. What has humor ever helped you, flip the switch when you've been down or depressed, or, is humor a go-to if you're ever feeling sad or bummed out?
Yes. I think that, I mean, especially like as actors, if, you have to just laugh at yourself, and you have to be able to shrug shit off, because it is a tough business, and most of the time it's not going to go your way, and you're going to screw up. Like, you're going to screw up, and you're like, so I got to that point where I was just like so hard on myself for certain things. Like, I've always been a perfectionist my whole life. And, on the one hand, I sort of pride myself on that because it really pushes me to do my best all the time, but you can't do your best. There's going to be times when you just screw up. And so I realized, several years ago when I was auditioning a lot, that I would really like let it like consume my mind. Like, oh my God, I screwed up. This casting director hates me. I'm never going to work. Like, they're never going to call me in again. They're sitting there thinking right now how much I suck. No, they're not. They don't care about me. And so I finally was just like, I got to the point where I was like, I just have to laugh at myself and even make an even bigger deal about how ridiculous I just was, and that's how I kind of get through it. Like, that's the only way to get through it, I think.
Got it. What makes you, like, what are some of your favorite funny movies?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so funny. Whenever someone asks me a question about a movie, I've seen, I don't know, thousands of movies in my lifetime. I'm like, I never read books when I was a kid. I only watched movies.
Me too.
Terrible, but I should have read more. And then someone asks you what movies you like, and you're like, I can't think of a single movie I've ever seen. Come back to me.
Okay. It's funny. Like, I'm a big fan of John Cleese, and he's got this really great quote, and which I think
I love him.
Yeah, he's super, super funny. But I loved A Fish Called Wanda. And I just remember A Fish Called Wanda was like that movie, and Something About Mary, and Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Eddie Murphy, like, his stand-up makes me pee in my pants. And I just watched it about a month ago with my husband and my sister and brother-in-law. And we were howling laughing. And my 18-year-old nephew was down. And we were really self-conscious because it was so inappropriate and un-PC. But when I went back and I watched Fish Called Wanda, it didn't make me laugh, which was really odd. Now, Jen, we're going to come back to the movies, but Ken, do you what are some of your favorite funny movies, and do they still, make you laugh as they did back over yonder?
You know what? I mean, of course, there's Mel Brooks. I mean, everybody loves Blazing Saddles. Everybody likes,
You're the 2,000-year-old man.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Do you remember that? You got some corn. You got some corn on your face. That makes me laugh. Did you? And he couldn't say it. You got some corn on your face.
Like too, which was ahead of its time. One of my favorite movies, the Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh man, I think I watched that one time and I don't really remember it.
Gotta go
back. I don't remember it.
It was way ahead of its time, and it was about.
I'll write that down.
It was so. I mean, some of it was so wrong, but it was so true because it was talking about the silliness of life, and it was smart, funny comedy back then. But it was just, I saw it as a kid, and I'm like, oh my God, this is hysterical, because they did parodies off of like the movie Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, or Towering Inferno, or they did things off of racism,
right. But so did Mel Brooks. I mean, Mel Brooks was Springtime for Hitler. The producers for Hitler in Germany. That was the best. I wanted to, just about Eddie. I just, had a total brain fart. Hopefully it comes back to me. I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but you're like, so, blah, blah.
All the time. Well, listen, because I want to, while you're thinking about it, because I want to piggyback on what you were saying, because as soon as you said John Cleese, I was a huge Monty Python fan growing up, and Fish Called Wanda was, I don't even know how or when I saw it, but I remember seeing it, and I still to this day think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. I've been obsessed with Jamie Lee Curtis my whole life, and Kevin Kline is genius. And that entire film, I just thought it was brilliant, and I still do. It still cracks me up. Michael Palin.
When's the last time? I know the stuttering. Could you imagine making fun of somebody with stuttering?
But I mean, like that scene where that scene where he eats the fish. I mean, it's epic. That Kevin Kline in that role it's an amazing performance. But also,
does it make you laugh now? Like, when's the last time you watched it? It does.
I actually watched it. I hadn't watched it for a long time, and it's there's some like parts of it are so ridiculous. Like, he's so ridiculous. But that scene where like they're talking on the bridge, and he about all of the mistakes he's made, like Aristotle's not Belgian and all that stuff.
Yes,
I just die. And
the Blues Brothers.
Oh, God, another great
Animal House. Yep. I found the quote, and then we just watched a documentary called Class Action Park, and there used to be this water park.
I saw it.
Hilarious. You have these people from the 80s.
I used to go there. We used to go there when we were kids.
Really?
Yeah, because when I was a kid, we lived in, I was born in Chicago, but I spent a large portion of my childhood in central New Jersey, and we would go to Action Park, and it's all true. Oh yeah.
I mean, that coming down that water slide where people would get clogged, and then the guy was just, it's like he must have been smoking pounds and pounds of pot.
I mean, yeah.
Did you get injured there?
No, thankfully. And I mean, I didn't know that there were injuries that were like that extensive. And the one kid that died, or I think there were actually several kids that died. Yeah. Like there was one drowned, one hit his head on those rocks. Like,
yeah,
thankfully. But I mean, it was always overcrowded. It was a mess. Anyway, sorry, I segued.
No. But I saw that, and we were laughing because you have these guys being like, yeah, it was the 80s. I mean, the shit that I got away with. I was having keg parties. Parties in my house, and my parents went to like the social at Temple Bethel, and we'd have it all. We were smoking cigarettes, and my mother has a nose of a bomb sniffing dog, and my parents were never there. I mean, it was crazy. We got away.
Stuff that our parents even did in the 80s. I mean, my bar mitzvah was like in 1983, and we had a hamburger hot dog party, and the DJ was this off-duty cop who was drunk as shit, this drunk off-duty cop. And he's, bar mitzvahs, they call in the family. He's like, all right, let's hear it for great grandma. Woo, she's hot.
All right.
Look at that skirt, grandma. Let's see it. Yeah. Great.
Oh my God.
I mean, we burned half the golf course.
Oh, that's funny.
Parents were doing coke, weed.
Wow.
It was the 80s. I mean,
right. My parents were gone. They got me a keg for my Sweet 16. So we had a keg party for my Sweet 16. My parents were upstairs, and maybe they even went out, but it was just like beer hall, beer everywhere. Everybody was so wasted.
Oh my God.
Crazy times. So listen, what do you do now to make yourself happy in the pandemic? And, especially when you're with the same people over and over, for the last 6 months, like what do you do, Jen, that makes you happy that, might flip the switch?
Where is it?
There it is.
I have actually spent a large portion of the pandemic working on pandemic films. Like we've been making films. In fact, one of them with Ken. We've been basically like working remotely and seeing, like a writer will give us a script, and we're like, how can we shoot this not together, you know? And so, okay, this actor is going to shoot this at home and this actor is going to shoot this at home. And then we're going to piece it together to make it look
Very
like they're in the same
cool.
place. Yeah. A director, Jeremiah Kipp, that I work with frequently, he and I have been collaborating on a lot of these. He's made a lot of them, and I've worked on some of the ones under that umbrella. And it's been really great and really nice to have something creative to do.
Sure.
So that we're not staring at the wall, like going crazy.
Well, I think that's great because I know I came out of a tough time, and when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I really had to let go of feeling as if I wasn't that productive and not beating myself up.
Yeah.
Kudos to you for being so productive. And what about you, Ken?
I mean, it's on and off. I mean, there was, in the very beginning, there was all this, now's the time for you to write your feature film, get it green-lighted. Now's the time to start writing novels and all this other stuff. And then every comic on Instagram was going live every 3 seconds. And,
Yes.
I did a lot of Zoom stand-up comedy in the beginning. By the way, never once did I ever pretend that I had a microphone in my hand, because
That's funny.
I can't.
Or pretend you're turning a light switch on and off.
See, here I am. This is not connected to anything, but here I am. No, put it down, asshole. You're not. You don't have
So
the time.
funny.
People did to get through, because I also have a kid. I was a 7-year-old. So remote schooling had to start right away, and we were trying to figure it out. So we had all this stuff to figure out. I mean, yeah, there were times where I wanted to be productive, and sometimes I do allow myself times where I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm upset. There was a lot of stuff that I was supposed to start with production.
Sure.
Some of it.
But have you've been working out? I just, when this hit, I was like the cupcake queen, and now I actually just did a workout tape, Kill the Muffin Top today. So I'm really, really proud of myself for that.
Awesome.
And Jenn, you look fabulous. So I'm sure you've been working out. You've been taking care of yourself.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Like in the beginning, it was like, wow, there was nothing to do, and there was no sense of FOMO because nobody was doing anything. So we were like, ooh, yeah, let's do a puzzle and drink wine at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
And so after a little bit of that, I was like, okay, we're eating like kings and we're gaining weight, and this can go south real fast. I said, we better get this under control. And so we have, ever since I would say May, maybe, been working out about 5 to 6 days a week. Me and my husband both. He's lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I've
6 months.
lost almost 20. Yeah.
Wow.
And,
what's your secret?
So I'm like, and honestly, it's something that I had been wanting to do even before the pandemic. And so I was very grateful for the time to do it, and just the space to kind of, get my head in it and be like, now's the time. But also I wanted to say that what you said earlier, I think that, everyone, like, to each their own in this time. I think it's perfectly fine to sit and do absolutely nothing with, you know what I mean? It's like, this is time to, it really was. And I say this delicately because it was very difficult for very many people, but this time was also a gift. And so if you just relax and, get back to yourself, that's totally fine too. I really commend and appreciate that in people doing that.
I agree, because I've had this discussion, and we got to wrap up soon, but I've had the discussion that I just feel like this is a complete spiritual, physical, emotional, globally total reset. Like the universe and something bigger than ourselves is like, you guys have fucked this up so badly. You have been so disrespectful to Mother Nature, to yourselves. you're not taking care of yourselves. And just, it was like somebody shaking out the, you know, the figurative or the proverbial carpet. And
It's going to disappear. It's just going to disappear.
God,
right.
no.
No, but I just think it's a total reset. And I love what you said, Jen, because I'm definitely out of it. And I want to leave you with this quote, which I love. And this is like a salute to John Cleese. And it says, laughter connects you with people. It's almost impossible to maintain any kind of distance or any sense of social hierarchy when you're just howling with laughter. Laughter is a force of democracy. So with that,
I love that.
we need laughter now more than anything. Would you all concur?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, God, you know, during this,
And they're great.
time,
And they're great.
and or do Facebook Live, but sometimes I take puppets or myself and do these Trump.
They're
live
funny.
art, and it got me through because it was also very testy time in politics. What direction are we going to go? Are we going to get Adolf Hitler for the next 4 years again, or are we going to, you know?
Now we're in a good place. Now we're in a really, really, really good place. Yeah. So I just want to say, you guys, thank you so much. And I wish you happy holidays and the biggest success for How Am I Doing and all the projects that you're working on without me. I just really am so happy. I'm teasing, you know, it's on my vision board to work with the two of you, and Ken, we've talked about it, and Jen, and I'm looking forward to 2021.
Ken and I have already discussed working with you, so we will discuss in detail later.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you. I love the two of you. Thank you for spending time with me.
I love you guys.
And that's a wrap. Okay.